Hey everyone, Diavolo here, and in today's video, we are back to cover the next arc in the amazing world that is Gachiakuta. This part of the story goes hard. The last arc, the Spellcaster's successor, was a small arc that helped in building up to Rudo's first re-entrance into the Forbidden Realm, known as No Man's Land. I knew we were going to expand the world more, the power system, and the characters just due to, well, everything we'd been through so far in the series. Still, once I finished this section, I just had to sit there and contemplate, well, everything. Kei Urana flexed just slightly, showing how creatively gifted she is when it comes to creating some of the most raw and real characters. Plus, how it all ended physically left me speechless. So of course, if you want to know what happens here, and with a bunch of other amazing series, then subscribe and leave a like on the video, as it really helps in pushing my content to a bunch of new amazing people. Either way, sit back and relax as we delve into the Lady of Penta arc from the amazing world of Gachiakuta. Once the group makes it back to the cleaner's headquarters, Rudo spots a random fellow standing in front of Semio's reception desk. Screaming out, the man informs the group that the mask is finished. Realizing who he was, Engine introduces Rudo to August. Kinda fitting since the vid also dropped in August, but obviously he's the guy in charge of gear creation inside of the cleaners. Dropping down low, Augie gloats about how freaking perfect Rudo's mask is. He didn't have time to set up a meeting directly with him, so got his measurements while he slept. When it came to that personality of his, he talked to the people around him and added a few touches of his own. Cutting him off mid-sentence though, Rudo can't fathom how he also managed to sneak into his room and get his measurements. Moving past the new introductions, the group all heads down to the garage in preparation for their journey into No Man's Land. Turning round, Engine gets his junior to remove his choker device. After doing so, our boy watches in shock as the entire group cut their fingers, drawing a little bit of blood. He goes to ask what they're up to, but Engine and the others just place their thumbs on the choker, infusing some blood into it. Pretty much, these choker devices are communicators that only work with people who have exchanged blood. Finally understanding why everyone was wearing collars, he ponders what kind of technology it could be, maybe a sort of giver power. Stepping back on in, Engine, with a fat smile, tells him to hand some of his blood over. Obviously he needs to put blood on the entire group's chokers for the connection to work. Now in the car and boasting it away from the cleaner organization, the group heads off to No Man's Land in order to track down a woman. A little while later, the group arrives at the entrance to one of the forbidden zones, Penta, the desert of No Man's Land. The sand that you see sprawling out into the distance isn't actually sand, but rather garbage that's dissolved down into dust over hundreds of years. Remembering what Augie had told him, Rudo double checks all parts of his mask, when all of a sudden, a gigantic, crab-like trash beast rises through the dust floor. According to the report on this mysterious woman, Engine states that she's got to be further in, and reminds Rudo he cannot fall behind here. Looking like a demon straight out of hell though, Rudo responds confidently that he ain't going nowhere. He's got his gloves and it's time to kick some freaking ass. Nearby, just crouched on the ground chillin', the reporter Tome starts a record of the scorpion-shaped trash beast. Based on its appearance alone, they can tell it attacks with pincers and a tail. Kinda shits all over my idea of it being a crab, but you know, we move on. Finishing their note, the supporter looks up to see a world of chaos all around them. Rio, having jumped up above the creature, glides in the air for a moment, her scissors tightly gripped between her feet. Launching straight in while kicking the Ripper down, Rio cuts through the exoskeleton and moves herself towards the tail. Getting her weapon in place, Rio then tears through the beast's limbs, sending it shooting off in Zanka's direction. Kinda crack up, but since Zanka ended up smacking the tail back, the creature then assumes he was the one who cut it off in the first place and boosts off in his direction to get revenge. Getting ready to lay the scorp out though, Zanka moves into position and smacks at the creature before quickly darting back again to gain some distance. Moving right back in though, he hits the trash beast with a plethora of strikes. However, they seem to do nothing, as the creature with its newly formed tail counterattacks. Having seen this coming, Zanka drops under the tail and boosts in close enough to start picking the scorpion up with his love stick. Now, with his weapon in place, Zanka activates a part of his ability that sends the outer spikes into the inner sphere of his weapon, skewering the beast in the process and causing it to explode. Watching the last of the monster collapse in front of him, Zanka looks around to see a bunch of similar trash beasts encircling him. He starts to freak out, however, once he looks above, he sees a familiar man spinning into place. Activating Unbreaker, Octa Shredder, Engine launches himself down faster than the speed of sound, directly connecting with the back of one of the trash beasts and sending out a shockwave that destroys almost every other one. Slowly, the dust begins to disperse, revealing that only a few managed to survive. But not really worried about that, Engine decides to leave it up to the new bloke. Rudo then bursts through the dust as he closes in on one of the remaining monsters. Grabbing a stock keyboard that comes with like every dung-ass potato PC, Rudo uses his glove ability and transforms it into a wild-looking weapon, most likely some Lockheed Martin X-Logitech wireless keyboard. Elsewhere though, in the desert of Penta, a mysterious woman smells a smell so dank it makes her question if someone's here to see her. Definitely Rudo's unwashed gooning gloves if you ask me. Can smell them from a freaking mile away was how Ryo found his room in the first place, and how Engine found him in the freaking trash desert to start with. But you know, either way, and back to the bout here. Rudo hits the enter, or what would have been the enter key, launching out a bunch of keys that slam down onto the back of the monster, killing it and spelling out turd face on its back. Rudo, gassed up over what's to come, flips the bird on his first confirmed kill. Sitting down now, somewhere behind Rudo, Engine jokes that it was quite the infestation of scorpion trash beasts. They all came up from under the surface, which to him confirms there are probably mountains of trash under the dust layer. Staring into the distance, Rudo notices something. However, on a second glance, the person vanishes. Suddenly, big freaking Dalmon and Tamsy roll up behind Rudo, scaring him as he couldn't see through the clouds of dust. Dalmon congratulates the young buck on tearing through some pathetic scorpions, but mentions he would have loved to see him in action personally. Randomly, both Tamsy and Dalmon's attention is then caught by something. Turning his head around, all three of them stare at a random woman, scantily dressed and not wearing a face mask, walking towards them. Unable to believe someone called Ammo was right about people being nearby, the woman asks if they are here to see her. In another part of the world though, Jabba along with Katoni are told to head to Penta. Jabba immediately questions if that means another one is going to be there, and his boss tells him he'll know when he arrives. Back at Penta, and only now realizing a chick's been standing in front of them for a moment, Dalmon knows it's hard to see, yet he thinks he should have been at least able to sense her. Engine then walks on over and asks if they think she's the one they've been looking for, but Zanka says it'd be way too freaking convenient. Seeing how the woman doesn't seem hostile, Ryo wonders if they should just ask her for directions, and straight up yells out questioning if they've seen people coming and going from the sphere. The girl says she has, exciting Ryo, who confirms to Engine that it's the woman they're looking for. Seeing how lucky they're getting right now, Engine decides to listen to what she has to say, then they'll leave the area. Starting to cough, the woman interrupts the group, asking them to follow her since it's pretty damn toxic out here. Zanka questions why she hadn't put a mask on herself, and according to her, it's due to Ammo's house being just around the corner. Getting Engine's attention, Ryo says that if he's worried, she can go talk to her first. He reassures her though, stating that they'll all go. Even if this woman is plotting something, he prefers to settle it as peacefully as possible. Flashing forward exactly 1 hour in time, Rudo looks around at the weird puppets and books laid out as someone collapses in front of him. On his knees, Engine foams from the mouth, his eyes roll to the back of his head before he fully collapses to the floor in front of that same woman. Moving back in time though to where we just were, the lady leads the cleaners through the desert on a short journey to her home. Once arriving, the group finds themselves in front of what I assume is an old chimney stack. Probably wrong about that, but you know, you can tell me down below. Rudo can't believe how tall it is, thinking that it might even reach all the way up to the sphere. Calling out to the cleaners, the woman opens the front door and asks them to come in. Walking into the main lobby, Chris can't help but feel like something's wrong here. Pushing that aside for now, the woman lights the way while explaining how her place is a little bit messy, so it's best for them to meet Ammo in her room. She reminds them that they can remove their masks since the pollution can't reach inside the tower. Plus, she finds it odd how they want to talk to Ammo but can't show their faces. Once they do reach the top floor though, everyone removes their masks, much to the excitement of the random lady who calls them all handsome and cute. Looking around, Rudo studies the room and after seeing a bunch of nice trash, wonders how it is that she has all of this stuff in the middle of a desert. The woman, who is now referring to herself as Ammo, interrupts, asking the group what it even is they wanted to talk about. Speaking up, Rudo says he wanted to ask her about whether or not someone can come and go between the sphere and ground. He heard she had seen someone move between the barriers and that's why they came. Not really concerned with little Rudo, Ammo derails the entire freaking conversation and asks if they can just talk about the kind of boys and girls they like. Augmenting her face into a twisted expression, Ammo announces that she prefers a man with a strong scent. Among the group of cleaners, she likes the strong, big man Dalmon the most. Popping back in, Engine asks if this is the fee for her info. She wants to talk about boys. Confused on what he means by fee, Ammo listens as Engine explains that they came here in the first place, you know, to learn about the barrier. He's not sure how he feels about playing along with this, you know, kind of weird relationship thing. Kind of weirds him out, but he'll do what he needs to do. Taking this in, Emo goes silent before condescendingly asking what the hell is wrong with him. Raging out, they claim their cleaners only make it sound like they're trying to use her. Injin tries to control the situation, but drastically fails as she only rages out even harder while calling him a creep. Jaded over this girl's little freaking hissy fit though, bro decides to go full mask off. He's like, yo, I'm trying to look you in the eye, but you ain't wearing, well, anything, so put some clothes on, woman. Darkness then overtakes her. Emo snaps back that any man who tries to tell a woman what to wear are the freaking worst of them all. They are through. Moving into a battle stance, she admits that now they will never be friends of hers. Spotting something while Injin talks to himself, Rudo fixes his eyes on Emo's boots. More specifically though, the logo that happens to be identical to the one on his gloves. Grinning herself, Emo tells her good sir to take care of him. In a twist that not even Doctor Strange saw coming, Delman obeys her command, randomly pulling out a pistol-like device that he aims directly at Injin. So here is where we find ourselves back just after Injin had collapsed to the floor. Turns out the reason was Big Delman rear-ending him. Staring back at his fellow cleaner, Rudo questions, what the hell did he just do to Injin? Knowing something isn't right here, Rudo screams at Emo and asks what she did. He questions if she's a giver and why her shoes have the exact same 3R logo as his gloves. Calming herself back down, Emo doesn't answer him, instead wondering what kind of person he likes. She watches the group go quiet, not knowing what to do or say, and taunts them. Conversation is the foundation of communication, so how will they ever become closer friends if she does all the talking? Humans love talking about themselves, so she demands they tell her about themselves and they'll have fun. It's oh so rare that she ever has guests, and all she really wants is to have a good time conversing. Well, except for the party poopers, that is. Rudo, stuck in place, just stares forward, unable to bring himself to say anything. Unconcerned as usual, Zanka steps up saying he gets it. What she's saying is she only hears people when they talk about the subject of her choice, or like with Injin, when the person turns out to be a party pooper. If that's the case, he tells her ugly ass to get a load of this. He is over this BS chit chat. He isn't exactly sure what she went and did to Injin, but it was a bad idea. Firstly, he doesn't give a shit about the sphere, but will crush any pathetic ant who tries to hurt his friends. Dropping to her knees, Emo starts crying while asking why he'd say such terrible things. She never really even did anything to him. Getting mad once more, she seethes back that he really hurt her feelings. All of a sudden, Delman lunges at Zanka from behind. Luckily, our man manages to weave out of the way and get some distance. Raging out, Delman starts losing it, unable to fathom that they hurt her feelings. He screams that Emo is the reason he fights and he won't let them hurt her. Unable to even understand what he's seeing right now, Tamsy lets everyone know that Delman's feelings are real. He isn't being controlled currently and this is his choice. Seeing the confused states on all of the other cleaners' faces, Emo begins to grin. She questions what's up with them, that they really never knew Delman was always a massive fan of hers. Tomei and Gris both fall for her tricks, thinking he really is a fan, but Tamsy brings them back on track. He knows Delman isn't the type to just hurt his allies because he's got a crush on a girl. Unwinding more of his instrument, Delman gets ready to attack with his vital instrument, Thirst Quencher. Freaking out internally, Rudo asks why everything always turns into a fight he caused. He then starts hallucinating from his time on the sphere, with people calling him trash and saying that he is the filthy blood of a criminal. Callously letting the fools in on one more thing, Emo says that there is one more fan of hers inside of the group. Sinking lower himself, Rudo, on the verge of a mental breakdown, listens to her mockingly claim that if anyone else tries to be a party pooper again, then the hidden fan will make them pay. Rudo, still stuck in this hallucination of his, watches a bunch of apostles surround him. Reaching out, one of them grabs his hood and lifts him up. Back in reality, Tamsy screams at Rudo to move, but seeing as he's stuck in a daze, has to grab him and throw him out of harm's way. Downward's attack barely misses Rudo, instead hitting the wall behind him, completely destroying it. Getting a moment of respite, Tamsy gives an explanation of how Delman's vital instrument works. Pretty much, Big Delman had a desire to make his plants grow big and strong, a desire so deep that his hose became his vital instrument. Just like the name Thirst Quencher implies, when Delman's instrument hits someone with water, it makes them grow. It manipulates the water content of a target, filling them up like a sponge or balloon, until they eventually explode. He assumes Delman managed to water Injin from behind, but Zanka questions how he got the jump on them to start with. It's not like bro's inconspicuous, he's freaking massive. Revealing more of Delman's ability, Tamsy lets them all know that Dalman has different nozzles, so he can use different settings for situations, and this time it looks like he used the stealth nozzle. Ryo, just waltzing forward, doesn't really get what's going on. However, she can tell it's imperative they get Dalman under control. Zanka from behind yells out telling her to wait up. If they're gonna take Dalman down, they need to work together so that no one sticks out too much, otherwise he'll just pick them off one at a time. Knowing that Emo already has another person hidden in the group, Ryo disagrees with him, saying she can't trust anyone right now. Seeing something though, Zanka screams out, telling her to focus back up. Snapping her head around just as Dalman appears behind her, Ryo is seemingly hit point blank by his high pressure water shot. Stoked with how powerful Dalman's weapon is, Emo reminds him that he shouldn't go breaking her stuff, otherwise he'll have to help her with the repairs. As the dust clears, it shows that Ryo somehow managed to dodge the freaking attack, having dropped to her knees. Cackling in the corner of the room, Emo continued to talk to them, saying that if they just talked about their loved ones, they would have been fine from the beginning. Needing to formulate a plan of their own though, Tamsy tells Rudo to wake up, but he is still out of it, mumbling about the sphere to himself. He looks at Tamsy, only to see him as one of the guards from the sphere. Stunned and unable to move, he asks himself when he returned to the sphere. Back in the room and just over this crap, Zanka starts to pick up on a smell, one that he finds kind of familiar. Dancing about the room, Emo wonders what they all think memories are made of. Things they can see, sounds they've heard, people they've spent time with. So many things can change into memories. However, what Emo thinks is that memories come from smell. As she says this, Rudo watches her start morphing into Chiwa. She tells him now is the person he cared about most to try smelling her familiar fragrance. If that happens, then he can feel like he's truly in love. Unable to believe what he's looking at, Rudo stares at Chiwa pull out the toy he fixed for her. She clutches it close, claiming she'll treasure it forever, but Rudo can tell something's up. She didn't treasure the rabbit. In fact, he watched her throw it away right in front of his face. Hearing this, Tamsy can tell Rudo is already under some sort of spell. It's just like with Dalman. It doesn't feel as if he's betraying them out of malice. He's probably seen something they are not. Something this witch is showing him. Questioning what he's going on about, Emo claims she's never shown anybody anything. Quickly kicking up some more dust, she says that all she ever does is make smells and happy times with loved ones. She admits smells from nostalgic times, that's her ability. Everybody has a unique scent, but once they sniff it, all they want to do is protect Emo. Coming to a freaking immediate halt though, girl admits she just really effed up here. Understanding what she was saying before, both Tamsy and Zanka whip out their masks. Pretty much, if someone smells Tamsy's stank-ass feet, they get the mistaken impression that she is the object of their affections. Tamsy thanks her for tipping them off, but questions what would happen if the memories with a loved one weren't always happy. What if the fan now hates the person they once loved? He thinks it could result in herself getting murked if she isn't careful. Of course though, the boys as they walk forth vow to take her down before that can even happen. Back in Rudo's hallucination, he calls Chiwa a rotten turd who abandoned him. He can never forgive her for what she did. Seeing her face smile while she holds the plushie close, memories of his time with her in the past run through his mind. He questions why it is he can't hate her. Why is he starting to feel happy? Looking up to see two apostles grabbing a hold of his dear Chiwa, Rudo listens as the girl calls out for him to save her. In a fraction of a second, Rudo boasts in front of Zanka and Tamsy while backhanding them in the process, forcing them away from Emo. Seething with rage, Rudo glares back at his fellow cleaners, who he now thinks are apostles, and announces that he isn't who he was back in the past. Now, he has the power to make sure he never loses anyone ever again. Power to make sure he beats their asses the next time he fights them. Looking around, the two remaining cleaners realize that pretty much everyone has been manipulated by Emo's smell-based technique. Lowering his head, Tamsy admits they never wanted to use their vital instrument on their friends, but now it looks like he has to. Skipping away from that for now though, and falling into a flashback from years earlier, a woman mentions how she never thought a flower would bloom in these trash heaps, but there it is, and it's all thanks to Big Dalman's hard work, sweat and tears. She thanks him, however, he doesn't let her since in his eyes, one isn't enough, he wants to cover their entire house in them. Back in reality, Emo boasts about how many fans she has before turning her attention back to the party poopers. Not ready to bow out yet, Tamsy tells everyone to hang in there. In a flash, he then flicks out some sort of looking bay launcher thing and activates its power. Energy flows through the item and its size changes, fully revealing Tamsy's vital instrument, Tokushin. Dalman starts to rage out. Inside of his mind, the cleaners have changed into a group of vandals who are dead set on destroying everything he's grown. Unable to take seeing his loved one get hurt again, Big D, along with Rudo, Ryo, and Follow, all attack them in unison. Catching them in his web first, Tamsy quickly activates his net ability, launching out a plethora of ropes that spread across the expanse of the entire room. Unable to move, all 4 of the hallucinating cleaners get snagged in midair. Emo, seeing her attack halted, screams out asking them to do something, but with each movement the restraints only tighten. Tamsy even warns them that the more they resist, the more tangled up they will get. He apologizes to them, having initially assumed a bit of pain would snap them out of their current state, but he admits he's wrong. Emo tries to use this against him, but Tamsy really doesn't care and continues monologuing. You see, his vital instrument is what's called a D-staff, a kind of staff that was originally used to wind thread. In a flash, Tamsy spins the head of the instrument, causing it to start winding in all of the expelled rope and core cleaners. This in turn binds them all together in a large spool of rope, making it impossible for them to move. On top of that, it seems Tamsy managed to disguise some ropes near Emo, which, when he pulled back in, caught and snagged her in place. Staring up at the pretentious brat, Tamsy demands she turn everyone back to normal this instance. Zanka perks up, telling her to make it snappy, even though, he barely helped. Dude just wants to leave this place already. Running over to Engine, Gris spots Tomei with her mask on, helping the faction leader. Sadly, even after putting on his mask, there has been no change in Engine's condition. Slowly getting more and more annoyed with the developing situation, Emo screams at everyone, calling them mean and terrible. It's been ages since she's been this roughed up, and frankly, can't take it. Losing her mind, she resorts to screaming out and asking for someone to come and help her. All of the hallucinating cleaners react, trying to escape the spool of rope, but to no avail. Maddest of them all, Delman tells them to prepare themselves. Once he escapes, he will take care of every last one of them. They are dead. Glaring up at the brat above him, Tamsy tells her it's enough. He can tell all of the cleaners are enamored by that woman, so will set them free. Slamming his instrument into the floor, Tamsy lets loose. Suddenly, the spool starts spinning, picking up more and more speed before it rips down through each floor of the building, annihilating a large majority of the structure. Zanka freaks the hell out and questions Tamsy how he could even do that to his own teammates. Not really worried though, bro just lands back on the floor and mentions that everything should be fine. Jumping down next to him and glaring up at him, Zanka can't fathom what he means by better. Their whole team is freaking cooked now. Gloating herself as she lurched over the edge, Emo laughs. She says this is what they get for refusing to have a normal chat with her. Humans always show their true nature, no matter how hard they try to hide it, and now they are all going to die because in her eyes, Tamsy is an idiot. Over with the boys though, Tamsy realizes something. Zanka completely forgot about everything they did in the previous arc. Each member of the Penta team can now take one fatal hit without actually getting hurt. Speaking back up himself, Engine even calms Zanka down, letting him know that everyone is fine, including him. So while he is here, he's just going to go ahead and confiscate this random shoe he picked up. Elsewhere, over at the cleaners headquarters, Semio brews over thoughts in her mind as she looks down at Rudo's information. Walking up to her, Corvus says that he hopes the group can safely get the intel about their border, then return. Considering who's on the team though, Semio doesn't think they'll have much trouble. However, Corvus is able to tell something's wrong. He questions if it has something to do with what she saw inside Rudo, and if she's able to elaborate further. Still, we ain't exactly privy to that info yet, and back inside of No Man's Land, Engine glances over and realizes Emo isn't even wearing socks. She quickly snaps at him to give her boot back and to not touch it, since he'll make her loved one's scent fade away. Curious about this so-called scent, Engine takes a fat whiff of her boot and straight up starts gaslighting her. Emo continues arguing with Engine, while Gris just stands there asking how long bro's even been healed for. Tomei reveals that he was already fine when she went to treat him earlier, but was just plain dead, waiting for the right moment to strike. Back over with Engine, he lets Emo know that he will give the boot back if she turns her powers off and returns everyone to normal. She replies though that she's already done. With one shoe, she can't use her powers, so they won't protect her anymore. Down below, Dalwin slowly comes to and questions what happened. Walking over and happy to see Remlin's spell did work, Tamsy tells his mate that he was influenced by Emo's scent-based ability. The scent that he and everyone else smelt made them assume Emo was the object of their affection. Realizing something, Dalman just lowers his head while he stomachs the fact that his girl never came back to life. Emo's powers are vicious in general, playing on one's emotion, but even more so for those who lost a loved one. For them, those happy memories will be much more potent. Even as they come back to reality, it hits them harder. Everything they just felt was a complete lie. He turns to Engine, curious on what they should do next. Even if they do decide to not fight her, she's too dangerous to leave unguarded. Thinking for a second, Engine tells his junior that apart from her vital instrument, she's just a helpless girl. He wouldn't feel right about taking her treasure from her, instead thinking it better to convince her to not harm others. Randomly though, Rudo steps up, unclicks the mask buckle and removes it from around his face, alerting Zanka. Back at the cleaners, Semio tells Corvus on how she's examined a bunch of people over the years, but what Rudo had was unlike anything she's seen. The gloves are not the only thing that's off about him. There is something else, something dark. Flashing inside of the tower, Ammo smiles, seeing Rudo with his mask off, and assumes he's been hooked on her scent. Raising his fist, Bro beats down on her, causing the cleaners to all react in abject horror. As Rudo readies up another punch, Ammo gets another moment to ask what in the world he's doing. Dropping down on her, Rudo doesn't reply. Instead, he punches her over and over again. Darkness. Semio saw what emitted from the depths of his soul. Something growing larger and larger. To put it simply, she thinks it's something that might destroy the world. Something like a curse. Back in the tower and jumping in front of Rudo, Chris screams at him to settle down and stop. Looking at Ammo, the little man sees what he did, her face beaten almost beyond recognition. Chris tells him they know what to do in order to beat her now, so he really didn't need to do that to her, plus she's a girl. Taking the black pill, Bro says he doesn't care. He asks if he can't fight back just because she's a girl. Just because she's a girl, he has to shut up and let her kill everyone he cares about. He cannot do that. Chris tries elaborating further, saying it's not right to do this to a helpless person though. Snapping back though, Rudo reminds him that she is not helpless, she is a giver. Everything so far is the consequence of her own actions. She confused the team, made them fight against each other, hurt them, and worst of all, laughed at them. Not just at them, but what's inside of them, their deepest emotions. He reasons that somebody had to do it, she needed the freaking beating. Love to know your thoughts on that down below, obviously. Can't say she deserved a actual beating because I don't think women should be beaten up like that by a male because it's just unfair. However, his reasoning was kind of solid, you know, I understand where he's coming from. There's a lot that goes into it. Everyone goes silent for a moment before Engine walks over, sort of understanding his reasoning. Getting him to snap back to reality though, he asks Rudo what he wants to do with her information then. Calming down a bit, Rudo looks at what he's just done and back at Engine, dread seeping out of his skin. Taking him to the side for a small chat, he walks off while telling the others to give Ammo some first aid. Sitting outside the entrance together, the boys remain silent, not saying anything for a moment. Breaking the silence, Rudo asks why he isn't saying anything. Engine, though, just replies it's because he assumed Rudo already figured out anything he'd want to hear. During the battle, he forgot why he was here in the first place and let his emotions get the better of him, something he already knows Rudo understands. For a moment, Rudo goes quiet again, but eventually finds the strength to explain how he feels. All of the time up on the sphere, he just put up with being treated like trash. He knew not to get mad, to take it no matter what anyone said, but then they threw him into the abyss, and he realized something. If he just puts up with it, he loses. He chose to fight against that ideal, yet during the battle that just happened, he realized he was slowly reverting back to how he was before he learned to put up with it. Back when the old him could only take this dark thing welling up inside of him and throw it at whoever got in his way. Yet, after all is said and done now, he's still the exact same person. It doesn't matter where he is or how old he is, he never seems to change. Leaning back while he takes this all in, Engine just says he personally likes hot chicks. You know, the ones with beautiful curves, smarts, kindness, and a bit of promiscuity. He loves them. But if he goes full mask off in public and a woman hears him, he knows she'd rage out. One of his flaws is that he can't hide that part of himself. Even grown-ups have areas where they could grow, and he thinks that the first step in growing is recognizing your faults. Back in the past, Engine admits he needed someone to guide him, but here Rudo was now, able to figure it out by himself. Everyone has room for growth, so while looking at the young buck, tells him they'll go apologize to her later on. Inside of Ammo's tower, Tomei apologizes to her about what happened and mends her injuries. Taking her mask off, she says she can always talk if she wants. She loves talking about romance too. Ammo admits Tomei would make a great parent. Her own mother was especially good too, even helping her discover her first love. That's how she received her vital instrument, because she saw an angel crossing between the heavenly sphere and the ground on earth. Of course, just want to let you all know that things get a little bit messed up, so I do recommend that if you want to get the full kind of context for everything, to go and read it yourself. Obviously, I never include every single panel and all that kind of stuff because I can't, but this kind of section here goes over a few dark topics that I can't really go into too much. While staring up at her open ceiling, Ammo falls into a flashback with her mother, one where she is being led somewhere. Along the way, she spots a black bird that she thinks is cute. She smiles happily, yet her mother, looking back at her, tells her the bird will never like her, so she needs to leave it alone. Instantly switching up her attitude, Amo screams that she hates the bird, causing it to fly away. Her mother then continues on their journey. Amo speaks up, curious over where they're going, and that's when her mother drops the bomb. She's going to meet someone who will simply adore her. Walking into the dingy alleyway, the two girls spot a man and his carriage in the distance. As they get closer, Amo starts to see the man's face, causing her to pull on her mother's hand, nervous about the entire situation. Dead inside, her mother says, "This is great, that man will love her forever and ever." Not really understanding it yet, Amo looks at the man before getting super excited over the idea of being loved forever. So as I said before, I'd narrate this section of the story, but I honestly do kind of think it's a little bit more impactful when I just scroll through this stunning section of art. Like the story in general is just so amazing with its art, but the way the author has just pictured it all right here breaks my heart. Poor girl has no idea what she's in for. The look on her face as she's sold and her mother's handed a bag of shiny gold is vomit inducing. As a man who's thinking of popping a kid out soon in the next year or so, who knows, it's just sad that this exists. Gotta also thank my amazing viewers for updating me on how the author is a chick. To see her perspective in these kind of scenarios is brilliant. Either way, hope you can understand why I didn't want to go fully in depth on this chapter. And now laying there on the ceremonial table, which is crazy that it's called that, Amo listens as the door to her room starts to creak open. Looking up, she sees the exact same man who slew Rigto up on the sphere entering the room. The creep of a dude freaks out, asking what made them think they could just come in here. Crouching down and activating his vital instrument, he tells the intruders that if they don't leave this instant, he will kill them. Launching at them in an attempt to cut them down with his boots, the two men easily evade his kick. Having slipped into his blind spot, one of the intruders throws an uppercut that picks the dude up off the ground. Dropping down to the floor like a bag of potatoes, eyes white and brain switched to sleep, Amo watches her lover lay there seemingly lifeless as the same dude then starts removing his boots. The second intruder walks over and confronts Amo. Instead of attacking her, he whips out his arm, signaling to the other man to bring something over. Placing the boots in his hand, the man then gifts them to Amo as he thinks the boots will suit her far more. He can tell pieces of her heart will rip out and the boots will fill those voids. Uncontrollably shaking, Amo says nothing as the man hands her the boots. Suddenly feeling somewhat at peace, Amo listens as the two intruders communicate about how this room is going to be as close as they get. Before they leave though, the random person tells Amo to hang on to those boots until the time comes, use them with love. Watching the duo step onto the ledge, Amo is immediately silenced as she sees something she never expected. Wings, golden wings as bright as the sun. Tears run down her cheek and she questions if it's possible. Were they angels? Were they angels? Is there a song like that? Sorry to ruin the moment, by the way, but there's a song like that, and that just triggered me like ADHD brain out. After watching the intruder duo fly off up towards the sphere, Amo turns back around to see the creep of a dude standing there. She asks if he saw it as well, but realizes he was knocked out, so might have missed it. Rushing over and pushing her to the floor, the creep asks what the F she thinks she's doing stealing his shoes. What made her think someone as pathetic as herself had any right to touch them? Raising his dirty, sockless foot, he stomps down on Amo while calling her a filthy thief and questioning how many times he will need to beat her before she listens to what he says. While taking hit after hit, Amo starts to realize something. This isn't the same as before. Usually, she feels nothing, or more, she stopped feeling, but now it's as if she feels like her heart is squirming with excitement, all because of some shoes. She knows the boots suit her, which in her eyes mean they do belong to her, and because of that, she vows to never let anyone else have them. Stepping in and completely ruining the flashback that was going on, Rudo tries to speak up, but Tome gets him to relax for a moment. Amo's finally started to reveal the information he wanted in the first place. Falling back into the flashback, Amo stares down the old man, who questions himself why. Why is the vital instrument reacting to her? He thinks it's impossible. From his knowledge, he assumed vital instruments could only be used by its owner. Amo assumes that maybe it's because it was never his in the first place. She admits she doesn't get the vital instrument stuff, but the angel guy said they suited her more, and when she holds them, her heart feels full. It's like she found the lost piece of her heart, like putting batteries in an old toy so it finally starts working again. That's what the shoes make her feel like, so in her terrified eyes, it's okay, she can have the shoes. Walking over to her and tugging on the boots, the man tells her it's not okay. She can't go around taking things that belong to others.
something she immediately finds weird since the place they live in is full of things the man has taken from other people. Besides that, Emo isn't just taking them, she's asking if she can have them in the first place. The angel thinks it's okay, he even said they were way better suited for her. Pulling harder on the boots, the man asks what the hell has gotten into her. Why is she not doing what she's told? Is she trying to signal to him that she needs even more discipline? Sweat dripping from her brow, Emo pleads that she isn't. There's just all of these feelings bubbling up inside, ones like courage and annoyance. But not just those, right now she's thinking things that aren't very nice. But she bows her head and explains it's a one-time thing. She will never ask for anything else but the shoes. She needs them. Initially stunned with her stubbornness, the man leans in close and screams no. He's over it. He shouldn't need to go around repeating himself. The boots belong to him and only him. They will never be hers, so demands she let them go already. Whipping her head up and screaming, he asks why he won't listen to her. After all, doesn't he love Emo? Freaking out, the man tries kicking her in the gut. However, Emo slides past his kick and retaliates with one of her own. Instantly grabbing out, he yanks her hair, causing Emo to scream out in a furious rage. Dropping her head down, she bunts forward, connecting with the man's chest, sending him shooting back. Without even touching the ledge, the man then trips and flies out of the hole in the wall, the same one the angel had just left through. As he falls, he reaches back in an attempt to grab the ledge, but misses, and instead watches Emo get further and further away as he falls towards his demise before... Leaning out over the ledge, Emo starts hysterically laughing, unable to believe what just happened. She drops to the floor, when suddenly, a flow of emotions hit her. She asks herself why it ended up like this. What has her life been for all of this years? Why did her mother bring her to that man? Because she sold you. Those words cut through her mind like a cold blade, and she refuses to believe it's what happened. Emo knows the truth. It was all so she could be loved. Pulling the boots up to her face, Emo takes a whiff and notes that the man was a good first love, one she will never forget.
Oh man, this story is getting all kinds of messed up that I did not expect, but continuing on.
In the time that followed after Emo awakened her powers, all kinds of people came into the desert. She wanted to be loved by all of them. Then, on a random day a few months earlier, the angel returned. Weirdly enough though, when the angel returned, she mentions that the other one wasn't with him. After a moment of silence to see if Emo was going to continue speaking, everyone started monologuing between each other, discussing what they had just heard. Still, Rio perks up, mentioning that they still need to figure out how to cross the border. Emo assumes it's because they have wings, but upon being asked if she saw it land, only mentions that she saw it disappear into the horizon. Engine pipes up, curious over when exactly the angel returned. While sketching something on the floor, Emma repeats what she said earlier, that it was around a month ago. Obviously she doesn't have exact dates, I'm imagining in times because she's living in a completely different realm to what Engine and the boys would be in, but either way. Suddenly, Rudo's face goes dark, and Engine realizes that timing is pretty much identical to when Rudo fell from the sphere. He asks Rudo for clarification, but Bro stays silent, walking over to see what it was Emma was drawing. Upon seeing the masked man, the same one who slew Rigto, Rudo knows it's him. He's here on the ground, and he apparently used to have a partner. Taking this in for a moment, Rudo removes his mask before getting fully gassed up. In his eyes, this couldn't be more freaking perfect. Now that he knows the dude who killed Rigto is here, all he has to do is track him down. He vows with himself to do whatever it takes to hunt him and make him reveal how to get back up and why he killed Rigto. Once that's done, he'll drag his limp ass to Rigto's grave and make him apologize for what he did to him. Emo tells Rudo that he's just like her. He needed his gloves to heal his void-filled heart. The vital instrument they inherited must work with people like themselves. They have enough of whatever it is an instrument possesses to fill the voids inside of them. That being said, once she did get those feelings, the human ones, she started to understand some things. Tearing up, she remembers what it was like with that man, and that it's still very lonely to be all by oneself. She wanted to be with someone, wanted to be needed, but the idea of leaving the tower terrified her, so she just waited for people to come and try building relationships with them. Sadly, it never worked out, and all that remains is the crumbled remains of her own home. Sensing Rudo close by, she knows he came to apologize. Still, she tells him that he doesn't need to after what she did. Standing up, she realizes now that they are all the same. All they want to do is hurt someone the moment they are. That's why in her eyes, the world will never change. Taking this all in for a moment, Rudo crouches down next to her and extends out his hand. Instead of fighting, he thinks they should learn how to treat each other properly together. He's not sure how to do it either, but wants to figure it out. With a big fat smile on her face, Emo says that he's already doing it. A little while later, the group gathers just outside Amo's tower. They double check if she really wants to stay here, and she agrees with them. She wants to stay behind and figure out how she really feels about everything. With a smile on her face, she looks at Rudo and says they should talk sometime. While holding onto the communication device, signaling that they traded blood to communicate, Rudo agrees. Everyone then starts to head off back home to the cleaner's headquarters. During the drive home, Engine brings up how they still don't fully understand what the border is, but made some gains at least. They learned about the so-called angel who can cross the border, and about vital instruments that have the same logo as Rudo's gloves. Lastly, Ryo leans in, questioning if the gloves and shoes are also a part of the series Jabba was talking about. Having returned to her own room, Amo closed the door, happy about the new friend she finally made. Appearing behind her though, two shadowy figures creep in, startling the poor girl. She asks who they are and what they're doing, then finally for them to not take her boots. To this fellow, that girl made him so annoyed, he had to hit her. Then, when he also learned the angel was back on the ground, he figured he'd go track the jerk down. Revealing himself to be Jabba, dude knows the desert is a freaking killer. But, oh well, in his mind it only really matters that he made some gains here. Not gonna lie, Amo kinda had the opportunity to escape with ease here. Obviously she didn't know she was gonna fall prey to Jabba, still I felt like it was a bit suicidal to stay behind. Such a sad life too, poor girl, but damn, Jabba showing up at the end was like freaking wild, man. Dude really is just a dirtbag, and I can't lie, I'm actually here for it. I'd love to see what ends up happening with him, if there's gonna be, surely he's gonna be in the big arc that comes next. It's a big like 40 chapter arc. I'd imagine him and Katone were nearby in a manhole, so they most likely heard all the information, but didn't act during the fight. Kinda smart on their end. If they intervened when the group was low, then Engine would have just popped back up and they would have been cooked. The next arc, as I just said, is going to be a biggie. The Trash Storm arc is like 40 chapters or near enough, so make sure to keep an eye out for that over the next 2 weeks. It'll probably take me about 2 weeks to do.
Almost totally forgot to mention it, but massive thanks to Promise Curse for the animations in the video. If you're interested and want to see more stuff like it, then I truly do recommend checking out their channel, which I'll leave a link to down in the description.
If you are new around here though and want to keep up to date with Gachiakuta and a bunch of other series just like Chainsaw Man, One Punch Man or Jujutsu Kaisen, then make sure to subscribe and leave a like, as it really helps out in pushing my content to a bunch of new amazing people. Either way, for now it's been your professional degenerate Diavolo, and I will see you all in a bit. Bye.